Bernie wins in New Hampshire, Trudeau shows us once again why a cardboard cutout will be better for Canada, and the legacy of social liberalism is felt in BC. Welcome to the Soundbite for the week of February 10th, 2020. As we talked about last week, even though Bernie lost in the Iowa caucuses, this was a paper loss only and didn't really mean anything. The real losers in Iowa were both Biden and Warren, and their collapse is continuing in spectacular fashion. The Democrats, along with the media, are finally starting to realize they have a serious problem whereby Bernie is likely to win and there isn't anyone in the field who can stop him. As a result, Bernie is now starting to face attacks on all fronts, but those attacks are meaningless and no one has zeroed in on the core of what Bernie is, which is an open socialist. They are also allowing him way too much runway to deflect and evade on the reality that his proposals would not only bankrupt the country, but would also essentially spell the end of the US. Until someone grows a pair, he looks to be unstoppable. Tempers are beginning to flare on the West Coast, where the illegal blockades over a pipeline are starting to have a real impact outside of where they are happening. Local citizens who are tired of this nonsense are being arrested when they try to remove blockade so that they can go about their business, and an officer threatens to arrest an accredited journalist for covering the protests. CN and CP have announced a stoppage of service to the east, which will raise the price of everything, and Via Rail has cancelled services as well. The election of a Green NDP government was always going to be challenging, but now we see the province beginning to mirror the social activism that has brought Portland to its knees when the Portland mayor allowed domestic terrorism groups like Antifa to operate in the open without consequence. Most people believe this is an Indigenous people's backlash, but that is simply not true. Several duly elected chiefs have denounced these protests and have also stated that the people participating in them are unknown to them and don't represent their views. The Liberals, of course, continue to do nothing and let this lawlessness continue. Justin Trudeau continues in his quest for support to get a seat on the UN Security Council, and he is currently touring Africa with the Canadian checkbook wide open, pledging millions of dollars for several African nations, including support for helping the oil and gas industry, which I'm sure is playing well in the West. Not only is he bullish on oil and gas in Africa, he also seems to have developed a bit of amnesia regarding the human rights abuses of several of those nations. Most people get the fact that politics is complex and sometimes compromise is required, but when he constantly lectures Canadians about all manner of social justice foolishness, coupled with his constant proclamations about being a feminist, the fact that he only does this from the Canadian pulpit just speaks to the cowardice and vacuous nature of his character and the general brain rot of social liberalism. Thomas Mulcair said it best that a cardboard cutout would be more effective. Finally, the National Post had an article this week stating that 80% of Albertans think we have a unity problem, to which I say, no shit. Welcome to the realization that most of us made a decade ago. Perhaps they should leave the Toronto bubble a bit more often to see what real life is like. Have a great weekend, everyone, and always remember that a country without basic freedoms, especially freedom of speech, is a country without a future.